Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Ult In Ten, and today with me I have a really important person. Usually his team is called his team. It's Atlanta from Team Goose, and why don't you go and say hi and introduce yourself?
And hey guys.
Okay, that's fine. In this game we see he's playing Ashe. He's playing AD carry bot, which he's now playing for Team Goose, and to start things off real quick, where we see right here is taking advantage of Ashe's passive and Janna's shield, which is really strong in lane. Why don't you go ahead and explain what was your idea behind picking Ashe? You weren't first pick for your team, and we know that she is kind of outdated in the sense of AD carries.
Well, this being a solo queue, I simply just felt like playing Ashe and seeing if I could make her work. I wasn't first pick, but oh my god, already Pirate got first blood. But anyway, I just kind of wanted to see what I could go against with Ashe to see if she is still usable. There are these phases of trying to test things, and Ashe was on my mind for a little while. She's going to be buffed soon, I think, so I'm hoping to use her later. So just kind of test out where she's at right now and kind of see what I can do. But this particular lane matchup is probably the worst possible matchup for Ashe. Janna usually solves those problems though. Janna can interrupt their engage with Tornado, but Ashe has no defense against this combo, and Triss is probably the best carry against Ashe, and Alistar is the best support against Ashe as well. So this was kind of like me shooting myself in the foot.
Yeah, you're going against pretty much your like perfect counter in lane, and I mean you still do really well in this game, and it shows just how much of an awareness you have of that third year counters because you play really passively and you actually took your hot shot level 2 to make sure that if Alistair does get in that first bush that John is sitting in, which he does quite often, it prevents him from getting an engage on you, and John actually helped you out with the wards.
I was actually looking to see if their jungler was a triangle bush. If they started blue, then they would have gotten to that area pretty soon. I don't know. It was actually just to check if they were just trying to early gank us because we have no real ways of getting away from that. And Janna Triss is, I mean, Alistar Triss is really easy to gank for. So they have a lot of CC, a lot of slows, uh, and the gap closers are really easy. Okay, and here I get harassed like really hard and pretty much have to play passively for the rest of lane phase. That was really bad. I saw Alistar in the bush too, but didn't respond properly.
Yeah, is there a reason you actually went Dorn's Blade in the beginning of this one? Because I would assume
I was
boots would
gonna
be better.
chase Gigi out of lane with that first hawk shot. I mean volley with shield auto crit, but I actually ran backwards instead of forwards in the beginning, so I didn't get an extra auto attack off. It would have probably forced him to base. So I would have forced him to base in the beginning as my advantage. Then I could base at any time after that if I wanted to get mine back. I missed a lot of last hits at the tower here, but um, the main factor here in lane phase was just getting the early advantage and making sure that they didn't have enough HP to afford to jump on us. But I messed up there being near the wall against Alistar. On when Alistar's blue side, he can go straight from the bush to the wall there. That was like a minute ago. So I'm kind of rambling on in different directions. Um, but essentially, if that didn't happen, I would have been golden in lane phase just because of the early auto crit.
Yeah. And well, let's talk about your early game builds, Ash. What typically items do you go for with her? Well, at least try to complete early game before mid game or any late game happens.
Um, well, I tried to get a few Doran's blades. I'm not sure if I got two or three this game. I might have gotten three just to try to survive Ash burst. I mean, Triss burst. But usually you got to get a couple Doran's blades because you can't be squishy as Ash, or at least you can't be that squishy as Ash. For lane phase, most carries will wreck you in early game. Um, and so just kind of sitting back, volleying and that's pretty much the entire lane phase for Ashe, is just sitting back and volleying creeps and not trying to fight them. Um, she doesn't really have much upfront damage as the game gets later, I guess, where she's only got volley on auto crit, whereas Trist has jump, explosive shot, and ult. If she wants to kill somebody, you can use her arrow too, but basically most carries have more of a damage potential than you do. But your advantage as Ashe is a pretty good range. Like volley has a really, really nice range, and CC and some support skills. So she's kind of like an auxiliary damage type carry more than primary damage. Um, but in this game, I built her primary damage with I think I did Infinity Edge Last Whisper. I mean, we'll see because I haven't seen this game in a while. So
We actually go Infinity's Edge Phantom Dancer with a Vamp Scepter, I believe. And
okay,
as we saw right there, you knew Udyr was in the or in your tribush, and you're trying to bait Alistair in because I mean, he has a pretty strong tower diving ability. He doesn't have his ult yet, but he can still CC you under tower forever and then still run away while healing himself. And unfortunately, you didn't get that kill, but you did blow Alistair's flash, which kind of gives you a little bit of confidence in lane that he can't hop onto you out of nowhere and get that kill.
oh, there probably will again. I mean, that's what this lane combo is all about, and my my whole purpose here is just to sit back and farm without dying. Um, and the Udyr pressure kind of helped us not get dove right there, but it's probably not going to do much to them again. Okay, so here they still try to dive me again. But fortunately the flash was a little bit late on, I mean the cleanse was a little bit late on Trist. We had to use heal too. Now they're severely overextended, and I have to unlock the camera because I can't see everything from my perspective. But basically, they dove way too far past, and they got punished really hard for it. Udyr came back from base, and if I had enough mana for arrow here, then I could arrow GG. But I believe I choose not to, just because he's got enough mana for jump right now.
Uh,
Okay.
and what's really nice is that that GP came down from middle to help you get that gank, or to help Udyr get that extra kill on Tristana. And not only did you guys get an extra kill from that, you are also going to get Dragon. And I believe this game you guys had amazing Dragon control. I believe you got 3 out of the 3 or 4 out of the 4 dragons this game, and not to mention by getting those 2 kills and Dragon, it frees you up to push bottom lane and get that extra experience that you might have missed out on being pushed out of lane, or at least having to play super passive against Tristana and Alistar.
Right, I'm pretty sure. Let me check CS. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I catch up here. I'm only 6 behind now, and we got a kill and dragon advantage back. And now I'm able to survive at least much more easily than before. Um, as the volley cooldown gets lower, you can just last hit exclusively with volley, and you can get almost every creep just by doing that. And volley has higher range than most skills in the whole game, or not the whole game, I'd say, but most carries skills can't reach Ashe when she's volleying. So, um, she's extremely safe past about level 7, level 9. And as long as you're really careful, you'll never die. You have Hawkshot to check for bushes. You have you have a way to stay safe the entire rest of the lane phase.
Now we know that oh well, okay. Well, I know, and most people watching know that you used to play jungle for Team Goose. What? And this actually kind of goes with the question that I received from the community is from Reckner, and he asked, "What made you switch from jungle to AD carry?"
We switched to better fit our support, I suppose. I synergized a little bit better with our support. Played with them a bit longer, and feel more comfortable playing AD carry in general than I do playing jungle. Like I really don't like playing jungle to begin with. That was mainly a change that was brought on by the way I play in mid. Well, I used to be a mid lane player, but I switched with Mandatory Cloud from jungle. So he switched from jungle to mid, and I switched from mid to jungle. And I didn't really like it, but I did it for the good of the team, just because the qualities that we have as players matched up better in competitive play for us to be those different roles, and we got a lot farther with the role swap. Since no one knew who we were until I had made the switch to jungle anyway. Um, but anyway, I didn't really like jungling. I did it for the good of the team, and now I'm doing another switch for the good of the team, switching to AD carry because it fits better for our bot lane synergy now that we're missing Lemon God. That's pretty much what it came down to. Like I felt like Lemon God and Smithy were the best bot lane that I've ever seen, but now that that's changed, we need to switch it up again. And Smithy was pretty good at jungle before. And he plays it and he likes playing it more. Um, so we basically said, "All right, go jungle."
Yeah, it's good that you guys as a team can be able to do that because I know most people, well, some people let's just say that from certain teams like they can't play other roles, well, like they're strictly an AP player, they're strictly a top lane, or strictly a support, and it's good that you guys are able to be flexible like that. And it shows how versatile as a team you guys can be. And now we're back, and this is starting to transition from early game to mid game, and I kind of want to talk about what particularly do you kind of tend to do as an AD in a team fight. What kind of separates you from the other ADs that you do specifically, or in general, how do you play safe and decide what target you want to attack?
It's usually that I'm staying extremely far back in team fights. You'll see later. I think that I usually just stay completely as far as possible until they have to run. Um, because I can't get in a right click fight with anybody as Ash. So my best options are to let my tanks go in and wait, basically, until I'm safe before I deal damage. And it's really easy to do that with Ash because she has such high range. Okay, so
So you guys
something.
picked up a kill here on Zillion. Sorry, I'm just gonna take over a little bit.
Okay.
You picked up a kill on Zillion, and you try to go for Baron having a pink ward down. And even though they spotted you by Lisa running in, you guys do get, I believe, 1 or 2 kills here, which is almost just as good as Baron, because now you can push down a couple of their towers and put a lot more pressure and kind of give you guys an overall advantage in this game.
Well, the Baron was still really high HP, so it was a lot easier to just turn. And with Ashe Slow, you can just punish somebody from going in. And in this situation, we have a lot of slows, so it's really beneficial for us to just turn around, and they can't get away as easily.
Yeah, you guys actually have. Well, you were talking. Sorry, let me just switch up. You were talking about how in team fights you kind of just stay really far away. But um, what about when the other team has an initiator like Malphite who can just get on top of you? I mean, you can't really stay far enough away the entire fight to not get hit by his ult.
Yeah, you can. If you have your flash up, you definitely can. Basically, you just you just stay max range and always make sure Malphite's visible. And if it came down to a Malphite anyway, you stay max range, always make sure Malphite's visible, and if your flash is up, then just flash his ult. From max range, it should be pretty easy. And especially for a character like Ashe, if we're talking about Ashe, she's not really affected by attack speed slows that much, because you're just volleying, hitting, and then running away, volleying, hitting, running away. And you're basically just gonna volley the Malphite and run the other direction. And if he keeps trying to get on you, then you have to kind of lead him back into your team, kind of. Like as long as you have a teammate near you, you're not just gonna get soloed by him. Um, we basically just have to make sure that you don't get zoned out completely. So if you're volleying, running away, you got to make sure that you're kind of leading yourself in the right direction, or you're just going to get completely zoned and you're not going to deal any damage. And that's what Malphite wants to do to you. And that's just basically any type of tank that you don't want to fight, but he can fight you, kind of thing. You have to make sure that you get close enough to the team fight where you have allies to protect you, so that you can attack more important targets.
What's your view on summoners for an AD carry? Because I know a lot of summoners or a lot of AD carries are starting to run, like Flash Cleanse or Flash Heal is getting really popular, as well as Flash Ignite sometimes. What's your typical favorite, or do you strictly just base everything on the other team?
Depends on what carry I'm running usually. Some carries can run Ignite, some like Exhaust. Ashe is one of the few that benefits from Ghost a lot. Um, but this game I took Exhaust because I thought Lee Sin was going to get on me or Triss was going to get on me, and so I thought it was better to do it that way. Um, Usually if you have to use heal to save yourself, it's because you were caught, and so I don't find that an Ashe that's caught is very useful. Even if I could use the heal to save myself, like they're still now in my face, and I can't get them off of my face. Um, but my favorite summoner on carries is probably still Exhaust. The only problem is most carries in competitive play run cleanse, so then I won't use exhaust. And in this game, Tristram cleanse anyway because I'm Ashe. So cleanse is the best against Ashe. So picking exhaust can also bait the cleanse out if you need to use it that way. But usually you're not going to be using the exhaust on the other carry if you're a high range carry, because that would imply that they got in your face somehow. Like the exhaust range is actually pretty low. So it's more or less to protect you when a tank gets in your face. Like cleanse is not going to help you against a Malphite, for instance, but exhaust might. So that's more or less what that is useful for. But I like most summoners on carries anyway. Like I think heal is decent in lane, but ignite counters it, and ignite's better for damage output if you need more damage. And it's really good in lane. Cleanse is really good overall. The best late game summoner probably. That and Exhaust.
What
Exhaust is really good against. Oh, sorry, go for it. I was gonna say Exhaust is really good against AOE ults, like Kennen. And if they manage to get that far into your tank line, then Exhaust is gonna help you the most. And if they have really strong anti-carries that rely on stuns, then Cleanse will help you. So it's really more or less up to one, the carrier playing, and two, the enemy team call.
As we saw right here, as you're talking about, in team fights trying to stay max distance and whatnot, we actually saw you. Well, you knew Alistair's W was down, so he couldn't charge at you, so you kind of didn't need to stay too far away from him. And we saw that you try to keep a couple people slow, and since Alistair's cooldowns were down, you could switch to the new or the Lee Sin to start putting out some damage, and it really showed your knowledge of the range that all the players have. You felt pretty safe. You did have your exhaust if anyone did jump on you.
Yeah, if you're talking about this team fight specifically, I got a volley on 4 people, but while they were all slowed, Mord ran in to all of them, and then they tried to focus him, but he has a lot of spell vamp and a thorn mail, so they just ended up getting wrecked. And then arrow was up for when they decided to scatter when they realized that they couldn't kill Mord.
And we saw how important a good Ashe was, because in that sense you knew they were somewhere towards Baron, and instead of just face checking a bush, or to help your team out since you had no wards there, you used your hawk shot and you spotted them all in that river bush, which prevented a probably really really drastic change in the game's momentum, because that would have been an easy Baron for them, and they could have gotten probably 2 or 3 towers out of that.
That was mainly Janna ult as well. When basically when Alistar engaged, it could have been really bad, but Janna next to me, and then we got to see all of them with Hawkshot, and they
Well,
all got slowed.
let's go back towards early game just a little bit, in the sense of, like, what's your favorite support to run? I know it usually depends on carry or what AD carry you're playing, but like typically, if you're trying to be aggressive or passive or just farming, like for each three of those, which one's your favorite support to have, to back you up?
Um, well, Janna is my favorite overall, just because she provides so much, um, basically so much support for the carry, and the sustain aspect, where you're missing sustain when you have Janna, it doesn't matter as much as people think it does. Because once you get Lifesteal Scepter, the lanes are both going to be the same pretty much. Um, Lifesteal Scepter pretty much equalizes a Janna lane with a sustain lane as far as being able to stay relatively healthy. Um, and so after that, after you to deal with having no sustain, you have almost the most CC from one support character. She really does not need items. She can stay in the back and protect her carry. Helps against all types of anti-carries with gap closers because her tornado can interrupt them, and the shield helps your damage output, which some carries lack damage output like Ashe or like Caitlyn that a Janna can really help with. And my second favorite would be Leona because she can initiate really well and has a lot of damage for the lane. She doesn't personally have the damage, but in a 2v2 she provides damage. Um, but that would be for passive supports, obviously Janna. But you can play aggressively when you have a Janna just to play when the shield is off cooldown or on cooldown, off cooldown. Sorry, when the shield is on you or when it's available to be used, you play aggressively, and when it's not, you play passively. It's really simple, and Janna has the lowest cooldown of all of those type of skills, so you can fight most often. So if you're fighting against a Soraka, you fight once with shield up, and they heal the guy, and you fight with armor buff, or you back off, and then in 5 seconds you fight again, and they have no heal. So she's really easy to abuse in lane if you have the right carry. Um, And as for Leona, you can usually one-shot people level 2. Well, not one-shot, but basically you can just take them from 100 to 0 if she lands her abilities.
Why do you think Janna is underrated? I would assume it's just because, well, because she's not played as much by most supports I know. Like Special, I talked to him in my last video, and I talked to Nat Nguyen from Epic Gamer. Is just, do you think because people are so used to sustain lanes, they're not used to having to, or they're used to being able to trade damage and not be affected by it, but with Janna, you obviously can't really just trade damage until you get that Vamp Scepter.
Um, it feels it feels to me like people are still really used to having sustain lanes. Most carries are used to having sustain, and so they play a certain way. Um, I tend to play it a little bit differently, or at least I thought I did. There's a few times where I played against sustain lanes where I made really bad trades, and it came to bite me really hard because basically if you make a bad trade with a non-sustain, you're gonna lose lane for the rest of the laning phase. And that's what happened in this game. Is I made a really good trade early, or not, not a, God, okay, not even a trade, but just free damage. And with Janus Shield and Thorin's Blade, it was pretty successful for the first level 1 through 2. But once 3 came around and they decided to turn it back on me, I had to play the rest of the lane phase passively because I was missing health and I don't have a healer. So I basically lost lane from there on out and had to get a gank. That doesn't happen in sustain lanes. In a sustain lane, if you make a bad trade, you wait 20 seconds and you're back to full health.
Yeah, that's very
So
true.
that's pretty much what it is. It's that sustains usually much more forgiving than non-sustains. Um, but if you make it past lane phase and you have Janna, then Janna's going to do a lot more in team fights than most other supports will, and that's where I feel the difference lies.
Well, here's a question, because I know Goose is actually preparing for this because the meta has strictly been AD carry support bottom, AP middle, a bruiser AD top. Um, you guys have been playing around with doing an AP bottom. Do you typically play the AP when it's bottom, or do you try to like solo AD somewhere else, or how do you
No, I
guys feel on
play
that?
I play AP bottom if it's bottom. Um, that's how it's been. Um, if ever we run AP bot, it's mainly Cassiopeia. I feel like is the best for that. She has good consistent damage output and lifesteal to counter her. That's the main reason why people don't run AP bottom is because lifesteal counters it. they can just buy lifesteal, or their support will keep them from getting 100 zeroed, and all sustained supports will beat APs other than Cassio. Um, because they have, or actually, I'd say Cassio, Swain, Rise are the main ones to be used bottom. They have CC, they have consistent damage output, and they can use Spell Vamp as their sustain, and lifesteal doesn't counter them. Whereas a burst AP wouldn't be able to harass a bot lane enough with lifesteal and sustain. Like say if they had a Sona or a Soraka and they lifesteal Scepter into 15 minutes into the game, they can just auto attack creeps and ignore the AP. Um, and if they poke back, then the AP is gonna be down on that HP for a while. Um, so unless you can 100 zero them, which against a support like Soraka or Sona is not going to happen, then you're not going to be able to win lane. Whereas with Cassio, you can always win lane with or without them having Lifesteal Scepter and support that has sustain, because you always deal consistent damage. Once you land a Q, you can land 4 E's and be done with it. And then your Q is up in 3 seconds. And you can do it again. So, and then with Rise, it's almost the same thing, whereas his combo is on a really low cooldown, and Swain's as well, where they don't have to worry about lifesteal keeping their carry at 100% the whole time.
Do you feel that that lane though is very limited to having like a Soraka, or do you change runes around quite heavily if you don't have a Soraka and you're trying to run EP bottom?
It's not limited to Soraka at all, really. I actually prefer supports like Taric, like Leona, like Alistar, that are very aggressive.
Yeah, do you that goes with this next question then. Do you feel if that lane doesn't act as a kill lane, it kind of fails? Come like late early game where the AD carry starts to pick up like a BF sword and picks up some more damage.
Nope, cause then you get your spell vamp and you can out sustain them and you can push them out every time. The other thing that those characters have in common is that they can all push really fast. And so if you're losing lane, you just push it all the way up and you back. And you can just keep doing that over and over and over, and you're not going to miss creep kills, and you'll stay at full health. Um, so I don't really feel like kill lane potential has anything to do with it.
Okay. Well, that's pretty much it for this episode of Ult In Ten. I'd like to thank Atlanta from Team Boost for being here. Is there
Hmm.
anything you want to say, before we end the episode or end the show?
Not that I can think of, no.
Okay. Well, if you guys haven't, you need to make sure to check out Atlanta's stream. I believe 3 or 4. You can correct me if I'm wrong on this. People on your team actually do stream quite consistently, especially during Built for
Um,
LOL and
I haven't. Oh, I don't think many people on my team besides me have been streaming recently. We all have really bad internet, so it's kind of like more of a chore for them than it is anything. So no, not really. Not until we get better internet anyway. Then they'll probably see more people streaming. But for now, I think it's just me and maybe Kurtoki sometimes, but basically just me.
well, okay. Well, I mean, still, even you gotta check out Atlanta. He's always playing. Always playing pretty much. I know Team Goose scrims quite a few hours every day, and you
Yep.
also stream your stream as well because I mean, you guys aren't afraid of showing things that you're trying to keep secret. It's just you guys need to practice, and what people don't realize is that actually helps out the community quite a bit. Seeing people scrim.
Yeah. It's not a problem for us to stream scrims because most of what we have for a strategy, it's it's not going to come out in a day-to-day scrim, but we might develop something. Who knows? But yeah. So we'll be streaming scrims quite often.
All right. Well, that wraps up another episode of Ultra 10. Thank you guys for watching. And if you can, please make sure to click that like button and as well as subscribe. I'm trying to do one, potentially 2 of these episodes every week, and I've also been doing some castings. So that's it, and see you guys next time.
Okay.